Hello, Gaston County. Welcome to episode number, we're not sure again, 107 or 108 or 109. I'm sure Naomi will straighten us out on which episode and when we release this one. But you're listening to Gaston's Great, a podcast highlighting some of the great things happening in and around Gaston County. I'm your host, Stephen Long, and we are coming to you once again from the worldwide headquarters of GSM Services as we look forward to continuing these great discussions in the coming weeks and months. We simply believe in discussing more of the reasons why Gaston's great. We are highlighting another great organization this week and have Shaaron Funderburk with us from Off the Streets Program Incorporated. Shaaron is the founder and CEO of the organization. Shaaron, it is great to have you on and welcome to the podcast.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here. Thank y'all for having me.
You're very welcome. You sound very excited to talk to me again.
I'm excited to be here. I just was surprised that it was going to be you. I thought it was going to be baby girl over there. So, well, let's get it.
We need somebody like Naomi to keep us in line today. So that's what she's doing, is keeping us straight. So we're not here talking for like 12 hours worth. So yeah, Shaaron and I go back a few years. I was trying to remember exactly when we first met. It was probably originally at First Methodist Church many years ago.
It's probably about 10, 12 years.
Yeah, but it's been a while. So, but again, this is about the good work that Shaaron has done over the years for our community. And first, we're going to get right to it, as we normally do. So, Shaaron, just tell us a little bit about yourself, anything you'd like to share, and then we'll get into the Off the Streets program.
Okay, so what I do need people to understand is that I'm a byproduct of Off the Streets. And it originated as a result of my own story and my own struggles. I've been off the streets for 29 years now. And I was born and raised here in Gastonia, so all my struggles happened here. When I was in my struggle, this is my little disclaimer. When I was in my struggle, I was such a problem for our town. And but it stemmed from a lot of the things that had happened over the years. But when I first started coming off the streets and I had found a way out, I wanted to be a solution versus being a problem for Gaston. So, i.e., Off the Streets was born.
All right. So tell us, if you can, just, I'm sure there's some listeners that have heard about Off the Streets, but they probably maybe don't know specifically what it is. Kind of what's the mission of Off the Streets? What is it that you're trying to accomplish with the program?
Okay, so for over the Off the Streets is 21 years old. We were founded in September of 2002. We're 21 years old now. But what we aim to do is to be the solution to women who are coming directly off the streets from whether it be drugs, alcohol, sexual abuse. We've moved over into a little bit of domestic violence now. That's a whole nother story, but a lot of the women who are coming to us are coming out of bad or desolate situations. And so we're taking on some of that. But even if they are DV, they have to be substance abuse.
Okay.
And so we're taking on a little bit of that. But the mission is to be the safe, clean environment so women can rebuild their lives.
Okay. Very good. So can you talk about maybe how you do that? Are there initiatives? Are there specific programs? Or is it a location? Because how does that kind of maybe describe the day in the life or a week in the life of Off the Streets program?
All right, so let's go back.
Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Let's go back to where the name came from. So back in 1993, when I was all in my struggles and I was going through and I was flopping around like a fish out of water, trying to figure out how to put my life together, didn't know where to start. I had did my second stint in prison. I did 18 months. And when I came home, I didn't know what else to do, so I went back to the lifestyle. Was really afraid to do any of the things that would cost me jail time, but I didn't know how to quit doing drugs. So I still did some prostitution and I did some drugs, but I was doing little minor stuff to afford the habit. And the way I got clean, there's this lady, Jamie Black, She got in my recovery for 27 years. God rest her soul. She died the same week my mom died.
Oh, wow.
She died Monday. My mom died that Friday. So I went through a double something in 2021, and I spiraled out. We were talking about that a little bit ago. But that was really why the cheese slid all the way off the cracker. I was retarded. But she's the person that stepped to my life and guided me. But mind you, still didn't know how to put it together. So I was working at social services at the time. I had worked at social services for 5 years, and I was taking women off the street. They were, it really originally started when I was in prison. The girl who went to prison with me, she got out before me. And when I got out, I had managed to pull my life together. I changed, I grew, I got better, went to treatment, got some help. And right around 18 months of being off the streets, I started looking for her. When I got off work, I would fix a bag lunch and get a drink, Sundrop or whatever, and I would look for her. But I would ride around looking for, prostitutes. Back then, prostitution was a huge thing in Gastonia. You could throw a rock and hit 20.
Okay.
But I winded up giving it to somebody else and talking to them. And the first person that I took off the streets, her name was Barbara Wallace. Y'all got the Barbara Wallace Award, Inspirational Award, a few years ago. And she impacted the beginning of Off the Street. She's the first person I took off the street. She used to sleep behind a dumpster at the old Sears building. And one day I was looking for my partner. She my PIC. She's still my PIC, my partner in crime. Partners in Christ now, but she's still my PIC. But I ran into Barbara. She was dying from AIDS. She weighed about 80 pounds. And she was just skin and bone.
Wow.
And I took her to my house so she could get a hot meal. And she said, I hadn't bathed in over a month. Can I take a bath? And let her take a bath. My daughter was like in the 4th grade. She actually put on one of her shirts.
Wow.
And she laid on the couch. I was making spaghetti that day, I remember, because she ate about 5 bowls of spaghetti. I thought she was going to regurgitate. She ate so much. But she hadn't had a hot meal in a while. So after she ate, I realized she didn't have nowhere to go. And I invited her to stay. And people who used to take her food or steal or bring her wine or whatever started looking for her. And all they knew is she got in a blue van. And they thought she was MIA. But she had started staying with me. So the people who was looking for her winded up staying with me too. Because the word got out, it was a safe place to go.
Okay.
And that's how Off the Street started. I had 8 women living in a 2-bedroom house. And for like 6 or 8 months, it was just us. We were feeding people from the driveway. We was giving out lunches and blankets and gloves and toboggans at the end of the driveway. And all 8 of these women were in recovery. We were working on putting their lives together. Some were, getting their license back and getting IDs and getting birth certificates. And a lot of the stuff that I required the women to do started then, because these are the things that you need to put your life back together. And so we started doing it out of my house. Okay, so in 2002, I got married.
So what was that time frame, you don't mind? How long before you got married?
I started doing that in 99. I started helping people in 99. From 99 to 2000, those 8 women lived with me.
Okay.
And they were putting their lives back together and getting jobs and getting their GED and going back to school and getting their kids. And they were doing all of these things, but we were living in a 2-bedroom house. It got to a place where I emptied out my daughter's room. My daughter was sleeping with me, and it was just pallets on the floor in her room. And they all slept in there and in the living room. And that's just how we made it. Some would be cooking, some would be doing laundry, some would be studying for GEDs, whatever, But we came together, and two of those girls now.
Excuse me. It's okay.
Two of those girls now, millionaires.
Holy moly.
And they sold back into Off the Streets. Yeah. One of them was a registered nurse. And she started writing her own prescriptions and winded up on the street. And we helped her get her certifications back and get back into her field. She's in Atlanta now, and she's been clean, I want to say 26 years. But she does kidney transplants now. She's a doctor, surgical doctor. So
that's quite a story. So that's quite a success story.
Amazing. It's so many success stories. God is good, because I can't take credit for anything. All I did was become that vessel that was willing to do the unthinkable, which is take the people who were downtrodden. And as Off the Street started growing, I got married. And then, once I got married, can't bring prostitutes to the house, so I started finding them places to go. They were getting their own places and they were moving out. Even Barbara got her disability while she was staying with me. The first person I took off, she got her disability, and we helped her get a disability apartment through Section 8. And she stayed with me while all that process happened, and she survived. She got on meds and everything, got them, health department, got her own meds and things, and she lived another 6 years, full-blown AIDS, in her own place, taking care of herself. And before she passed away, she had started advocating for people with HIV and AIDS. But she inspired the program. That is the reason why we have the Barbara Wallace Inspirational Award.
Right.
Because she was the first person that came to stay with us. And the name of Off the Streets came from, and I like to tell this part, because when I was out on the street 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, there are no cars, there are no tricks, there's no money. And I used to sit in this one place, and I used to tell myself, if I could just get off these streets, I'd be okay. And I knew when I was putting together the program, we were doing bylaws and things. It's like, I don't know if you know Officer Smith, Mike Smith.
Yeah.
He was one of their board members that used to patrol DEA bicycles through the neighborhood where we were feeding homeless people. And he said to me, he said, you're getting some of these women off the streets. I'm hearing about you, And so he repeated the name that I used to say all the time. I was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna call it the Off the Streets program. That's where the name came from. Now, here's the thing, right? I was working in social service. I hated it. I mean, they do great work. It just wasn't my calling.
Understood.
Okay. I hated my job. It's like, it's not a job if you enjoy doing it, right? Mm-hmm. I hated going to that job because I didn't get fulfillment out of it, because it wasn't doing what I needed to be doing spiritually for me. I was serving, I was doing what I was supposed to, I was helping people, but not the way God called me to. And so I knew my purpose wasn't being fulfilled. And so I told my husband, I'm going to just quit my job. I used to say it every day, come home and quit my job. And so he said, you know what, just resign, just quit, right? And so I put in my resignation. I worked for 2 weeks, came home, I was like, yeah, I did it. I put in my resignation. So now I'm at home, I'm working on stuff. I'm making him crazy because now I ain't got nothing to do. The women are not living with me, so I'm having a hard time keeping up with them, because it's like when they were there, I knew, but now they're everywhere. So he's like, and he came in the house one day and he goes, so what's the name of that program you say you're going to start? And it ignited that, I had never heard of 501c3. I'd never heard of any of those, acronyms, with the bylaws and, and articles. I never heard any of that stuff. And so I got me a business mentor, Lisa Cito. Okay. she was running a program called the Howland Family Resource Center, which was in the neighborhood but around the corner. And I started going there. And she started, she would ask me questions, and she would tell me to do something, and I'd go and I'd come back. Because she didn't believe, she had heard people say they're going to do things for years, but she never saw any of it fruition. And she's like, well, you do this and come back. You do this and you come back. And I would do it, and I'd come back. And she made me read Robert's Rules of Order.
Yeah.
It's a really dry read, but I
Yeah,
read
it
it.
is. Yeah, it is.
I really read it, and and I would ask her questions. So she's like, yo, you reading that book for real? Because she was trying to run me off.
Yeah, see if you would actually do it or not.
Yeah, and I would ask her questions, and she's like, you really reading that book, huh? I was like, yeah, but, some of the words in here, what's fiduciary? Some of these words, is like, she's like, well, you got to look the words up. I was like, I'm looking them up. I don't know what the definition means. And she would break it down and things like that. But, I got a business mentor, and she started talking me through the nonprofit part. And she taught me, a lot of things. And she's like, I can't teach you how to write grants. You're going to have to take grant class. I took grant class. Actually took 3 because the first one didn't take. The professor was dry. He was dull. He didn't keep my attention, so I couldn't stay focused. But I had a lot going on, too. But learning how to do all those things in the background of having the program, but the day-to-day operation came easy. It's that business part that I struggle with.
Oh, sure.
So I just threw together the board at first, but now I got a really good working board. You should be on my board. But really, I just need you for what you do. I don't really need you to be on the board to do it. And that's a lot of my collaborations in the community now. But my board members, everybody on my board do everything I don't do. So I don't have to focus on that.
Well, that's smart. That's good. That's a good plan.
And I tell my board members, I said it so much now they all know to say it before I say it. I got one trick. I help people get clean. I help people put their lives together. That's my one trick. You're on my board because you do this and you do this and you do this. That's why you're here. I don't do none of that. And so, and that's what makes Off the Streets board work. And I love the fact that I got some board members who are in the trenches with me. Dr. Darrell. I can call him and say, I got a girl whose mouth is this, and she's got abscess this, and she's pain here, and he'll work her in, and he'll take care of that.
That's Darrell Current, right? That's who you're talking about?
Dr. Darrell Current.
Yeah, I know Darrell.
Yeah, that's my dude, right? But he's boots on the ground with me. He's in the trenches, and I got some board members that'll do that. Some of my other board members, I can just call them up and say, this is what I need. And it's not like we got to meet in order to talk. I just reach out to them for whatever their profession is, and they help me that way. My lawyer, he's real good with, well, she's got this going on. What should we do? And he'll tell me what to do so I can navigate that. My CPA, he makes sure the money stay tight because I don't want to go back to prison. It ain't even really about the board members.
Yeah, I get it.
I don't want to go back to prison, so don't let me mess up the money, and that's our relationship.
Yeah.
He'll tell me, he's like, and anything that I don't know I can do, I just call him and ask him, and, he'll tell me yeah or nay, that kind of thing. So that's kind of what makes the board work, and that's the best part about my board of directors. A lot of the people say your board, you work for your board, our board works together.
Right.
We work together. I like that,
So you've come a long, so the organization, you and the organization come a long way since, say, that 99 time frame when you had 8 women living in your house with you. Is it?
And we wasn't a program then. Everything was out of pocket at that time. Yes, it actually is a functioning organization now. For the first 10 years, for the first 5 years, we struggled with keeping the doors open. I remember telling the board members that we had $236 in the bank, and my husband was going to pay all the bills at the house out of pocket. And we were waiting on, we had just started doing the run for the money. We was waiting on it. It's like, I need to pay him back, And, he was like, well, I'm going to sow into the program. Don't worry about it. I'm going to sow into the program. Don't worry about it. Sow into the program. But we had a hard time staying open in the beginning. And it's like after we hit that 10-year mark, it was almost like certain people said, well, she ain't going nowhere. I'm helping people even though I have to help them out of pocket. I'm going to take care of people. I'm buying, the first time, I don't even know if I should put this in there, but the first time I helped my husband understand what I was doing before we got married, right? He thought I was a Christian. He didn't know I wasn't saved. He saw me doing what Christians supposed to do. It wasn't until 2 months after we got married that he realized my wife ain't saved. She just got a good heart. She helped people. She doing what the words say. She don't have a clue about who Jesus is. And so my husband took me down Romans Road. He helped me find salvation, and he still helps me, in that arena. My husband's a preacher. I don't know if you know that.
I did know that, yeah.
Okay, he's a doctor now. He's a doctor in theology now, so he done grew too. But when we first got married, it wasn't like that. And he came in the house. We probably had been married. It was right after I resigned from social services. And he says, he come in the house. I was like, I got to send this girl to Atlanta. I've already set up a relay because after they stopped living with me, I became a placement program. And I got to send her to Atlanta, and I got a relay set up. I got somebody that's going to pick her up at the bus stop and take her where she needs to go. But she's got to have bras and panties. I need some money. And he's like, I don't think I've ever bought. He said, I ain't never had a woman ask me to buy another woman underclothes. He said, I don't really know what to do with that. Yeah. I said, well, just go in your pocket. You can think about it later. Because her bus is going to be here in like an hour. I got to get these things and get her at the bus stop. And that's when he really wrapped his mind around.
What have I got myself into?
My wife is about this.
Yeah.
She's about this, And he got on board. He kicked and screamed a little bit because I stayed going all the time trying to build this, from grassroots. But once he started to see lives being changed. Because probably the first year when the women started talking about God, I wasn't astute enough to help them. So it's like, you need to take this girl down Romans Road. You need to invite her to Christ. So, and he knew that was his role. So when they started talking about that arena, that's when he got invited into the conversation. It's like we're sitting at the kitchen table, and he would ask her the questions, You got to confess your sins. You ain't got to confess them to me, but you do have to confess your sins. In other words, you got to admit you're a sinner. And, she looking at me, I'm like, well, it's a given. Things that you're doing are not right. You just got to make sure that you understand, And my husband was like, because he don't know. And he don't want to have them conversations with her.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's like, I don't know about your prostitution. I don't want to need to know how many million you I don't want to know that. Right? Or, stealing and all of that. He don't want to hear all that. But he started getting involved from that spectrum. And that's kind of what made us unified in the ministry. And he started calling it ministry. I just was running the program. I'm trying to help people. And I wasn't caring about none of the titles because people were dying.
Well, so many times it's more than one person involved, right? I mean, obviously you are the foundation. You're the heart, I would maybe behind all this, but it takes so many people, right, for something to go from that 1999, how it looked then and how it looks now. Do you know roughly how many women the organization has served?
I know exactly how many. 2,676 women.
Oh, my.
Have lived in the shelter.
That's impressive.
And I know that because every time somebody comes in, I have to put it on their file.
Right. And
I had to put the room that they're sleeping in and the bed that they're sleeping in because all of the state want to know all this stuff.
Oh, sure.
But yeah.
So this might be a tough question, because you've answered like all my questions except for one, but you kind of have. But I'm going to ask this anyways. Can you, looking back over the last 20, well, it's really more than 21 years, but is there something that stands out that you're most proud of, or is it the number? Is it the number you just quoted? Is that what you're most proud of?
No.
What are you most proud of accomplishing through the organization and your work?
The most thing I'm proud about is the collaborations that I've built in Gaston County. I started out with saying that I was such a problem for Gaston County with me being a nuisance in my own story, that I never thought that, in 2020, in 2021, I made the Martin Luther King Monument. And I think that what made me proud of that was my mom, even in her dementia, she called me that morning, "You made the paper. You made the paper." I hadn't even saw it yet, and it was on the front page. And I think that that's the thing, that because I know I was a problem for Gaston County, but I know the heartache I caused my moms. And I think that it was in that moment I knew all the stuff that I did, I had outlived my past when that happened for her.
Sure.
She called all her friends. She called all the family. She want to tell everybody. And people will start calling and telling me, because she done called and told them, and then, and she said, "You need to put it on that book face." So I put it on the book face. She called Facebook. She just never, and she never said Amazon wrong. Call that Amazon. But you need to put it on that book face. I want my people to see you ain't no drug addict no more. I'm still a recovering addict, Mom. You ain't no drug addict. But all her friends knew who I was when I was all of those things to the negative.
Yeah.
And she was elated.
No matter how old we get, we still like to have that affirmation from our parents, don't we?
I didn't want that no more. I thought I was good.
Yeah.
Because I'm not the problem anymore. But I had no idea that it was still dormant in her or alive in her. Because, it wasn't until, but I felt like, that's my proudest moment, when I made her proud. Because all the stuff I'm doing, it's like, you know what? I'm just doing what I do.
Yeah.
I don't need no recognition.
Well, I remember that distinctly because I'm still on the board of Gaston Together. So
Okay.
So I'm involved with that, and so that was good.
You know how that came about though?
I don't remember exactly.
Okay, so I was driving to Virginia when she called me and told me I won. I thought it was a joke, so I hung up on her. It was pouring down, raining. I was driving to Virginia. I was trying to get to where my daughter was because she was getting some kind of award, and I wanted to be there. And she said, "This is Donna." And I didn't know her, so I was like,
Donna Lockett?
Yeah. I was like, okay, whatever. I'm driving. And she's like, "Well, you won the Martin Luther King Award." I said, "Whatever," click. Because it's like, I ain't never heard of that.
Yeah.
But I wasn't thinking about here. And so, nah. But the second thing that I'm proudest of is when I won the LOreal Paris Woman of Worth. I don't know if you know about that.
I don't know.
Okay, so in 2014, I won LOreal Paris Woman of Worth. I don't even know how I got nominated, but they flew me to New York, and they made a big deal, and we were in magazines and on TV,
Wow.
and we did commercials, and I was one of the faces of L'Oreal Paris for a minute.
I know what that is.
Yeah.
I just don't know what the award is.
But
Jeez.
they picked 10 women. They picked 10 women, and at that time they were celebrating something humongous. Okay. So they put 10 women all together. And they brought us out to New York to do photo shoots and, wardrobe and makeup and all of these things. And they invited us to be the face of L'Oreal Paris for, you know.
That's legit.
It is legit. It is. I'll send you the thing. But they came here and they did my story,
and that's almost as big as being on this podcast.
Almost because what I understood at the time was, and this is one of the things that they highlighted, because they asked the question that you ain't asked. I'm gonna ask the question for you. You know, what made you put your life together? What made you quit? They asked that question and they highlighted it, right? And one of the things I like to say about that is, I don't know what made me want to stop, but I do know that I was ready to live. I got tired of being a nothing and a nobody. I got tired of being the person that you walked by and didn't see. I got tired of being invisible. And I used to do this one thing when I was drinking. I used to get my beer, hustle up and get a beer, and I would go to Irwin Center and sit on the hill away from everybody. And I would look at them doing the t-ball practice, you know, with the kids, and I would
I played on that field when I was a kid.
Yeah, but I would sit on that hill and I would imagine myself being in one of those families, you know, and what it would be like to be normal, because I didn't know what that was anymore. And so that's one of the things that when L'Oreal Paris was here, they highlighted that. We went out there and I showed them that this was the end for me. This is what my end looked like. I wanted to be normal, but I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't know how that would feel. So I would come and sit on the hill with the beer, and I would look at these people and imagine if this is somewhat normal, what that look like. You know, you got your kids out here, you got family out here, you know, I just didn't know. But that was the closest thing that I could find at the time to normal. And every day I would make it my business to get me a beer and go sit on the hill and watch for that couple of hours to just get away from the noise that I was living in, or the homelessness or destitution that I was in. That was my escape at the end. And so coming away from the drugs, you gotta clean that.
We can get you one for sure.
Coming away from the drugs and coming away from the alcohol, that right there was the best I could do, because I didn't know nothing else. And so when they asked me that question, I took them to that field, and they did my story from there. I took them to where I sit on the hill, and I would drink my beer, and I would pretend to be part of those families and see what it's like to like get in the car and go home and have heat and have food in the house and, you know, and watch TV. Because at that time I was alone then, you know. The drugs wasn't working anymore. The alcohol wasn't working anymore. What used to fix the problem had become the problem. And I didn't feel high. I didn't feel drunk. I just felt void. And the best way I can describe it for normal people like you is it's like being down in a black hole and life is going on around you, and all you can do is look up at life because you don't know how to get out of the hole and be part of that. And that's what my end looked like. I don't believe in bottom. I don't think I've had one, because every time I thought I had a bottom, it got worse. But that's what the end looked like for me. And so I know what that desolation looked like. I know what that destitute looked like. And so when the girls come in the house, it doesn't matter what the story is, I remember mine and how bad it got for me. So if it's a little bit like that,
you can relate to them.
Yeah, if it's a little bit like that for you, I know the way out.
And now you've helped 2,000 plus at least move toward something different, right?
We got like an 88% success rate.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. And then I got girls who stayed in the house who didn't do right calling me now, talking about 16 years ago you helped me. I fought you and I kicked against the grain, but I've been clean 7 years now.
Oh, wow.
And you still the voice in my head.
So you might have been the trigger for later.
Well, okay, but see, we just plant the seed.
Right.
God is going to water and get the increase. You know, I mean, but
sometimes my point there is sometimes you might not see it immediately, right?
I don't look for the instant gratification because I do know that you can stay at my house for a year. That's not enough time to get you where you need to be.
Yep.
So I just got to do as much as I can while you're here so that when you do leave, hopefully you hear me later. Because I'm going to say enough stuff. And they come in, they fight. I do jail. I have to remind like a lot of them, I do jail. Don't get it twisted. Don't let the smooth taste fool you. It ain't going to be what you think. We go out, we ain't going to tear up my house because I done did that before. And it cost myself money. So let's go out in the yard. And if you can dust me, you win. If you can dust me, you win. And, when I don't back down, because you have the ones that do challenge you.
Yeah.
But they're that kind of angry. I know what that anger is. I know what it is. It's that feeling of being left out or left behind, or you ought to be further than you think you are. But because you're not, you're mad about it. And I tell them, on the other side of the argument, after they can't scare me, because you can't scare me. I do jail. The worst thing that can happen is, one of us going to the hospital, one of us going to jail. That's the worst thing that can happen, But once I don't back down and they realize I'm just here to help you, I'm probably telling you stuff somebody should have told you years ago. You ain't want to hear it. Well, you in my house now. There's no way I'm going to pay the bills and fight. That don't make sense. Where they do that at? And so if we're in a difference of opinion, I'll let them express themselves, whether it be anger, you can't come at me with vulgarity because if you got that going on, I'm gonna meet that a little bit differently. Some stuff that, I've had girls. I had to call the police on one girl because she really thought that I was gonna fight her. She was huge. She was bigger than me. I called her Debo. I don't know if y'all know who Debo is, but anyway. I called the police, and I told the police, if we're going to fight, I want y'all to witness it. Because I ain't going to let her take me. The police like, we can't, watch y'all fight. Well, you need to get off the premises because it's going to go down. But, I know what that anger is.
Right.
I know what that hurt is. And a lot of times it ain't even got nothing to do with me. It's coming from somewhere else. Because that's what it was like for me. Being left behind. Just knowing that, I done screwed up life so bad, I don't even know where to start. And a lot of them, when they come to the house, 95 to 99% don't know where to start. So when they first come, when you get up in the morning, I need you to do this and this and this. And, within 35, 45 days, I'm starting to say, what's your plan? What you got going on today? Because within that time, you need to tell me what you got a doctor's appointment, got a dentist appointment, got to go to social services, got to go get a birth certificate. You need to start telling me what your plan is today, because I done already told you what you got to do. Now you need to tell me, when is the appointment? Well, Shaaron, when I get up in the morning, I got to do this and that. I got to catch the bus at this time. I got to catch the bus at this time. Don't miss the bus. You'll walk. I used to run around and try to catch them all and carry them places. Then I start realizing, y'all missing the bus on purpose. I ain't got time to catch everybody and take everybody. You need to walk.
Well, yeah, you couldn't serve 2,600 people by hand-holding every single moment.
I drove one van straight into the ground trying to make sure everybody got everywhere they need to go. But this is before I fought the city to get the bus to come down there. For 2 years, we didn't have a bus.
Gotcha.
And
so another advocating and collaborating and getting what's needed, right? In
Praise
taking care.
God for Dale Burkett. He was over the ward at the time. Robert Kellogg is not Robert Kellogg, but I can't think of his name. But anyway, his face is right here. We sit on the steering committee at Run for the Money together. But anyway, he's over the ward now. But Dale Burkett, when he was over that ward, he helped me bring the bus back down to that area.
That's good. It takes that.
Oh my God, it's been about 15 years.
So obviously, I mean, these are good stories. So you've come a long way. You've served a lot of people. You've made obviously some tremendous impact. Looking ahead for the organization, what do you see? Anything? You're just going to continue kind of doing what you're doing? Is there any other plans in the future, the next 5 to 10 years, or is it you just want to continue with what you've been doing in the last few years?
Okay, so I've had opportunities to grow, and I've had people to offer me bigger space and more housing and more, but that just caused me to have to try to raise and come up with more money to take care of all of the responsibilities. So, no, I'm going to tell you the same thing, and even when I ask you for your money, just know that I am not trying to do more.
Understood.
I want to continue to do and stay the course because this is working.
Yeah, we've learned growth for the sake of growth isn't what's the plan? What's the plan and what are you trying to do, as opposed to because growth can cause a deterioration in results.
I've seen that. And
Yep.
see, I learned from 2 other organizations that closed down while I've been operational. They grew beyond what they could afford. And as a result, they couldn't get funded. And so they closed.
Right.
So I have learned from that so to answer your question in the short, we're going to stay like we are. I've learned how to rotate them out of the house faster.
Okay.
They used to stay a year to 18 months. Well, I can get them self-sufficient and out the door in 10 months now. Rarely do they stay a year now. Because, about 10 months, you're getting on my nerve, I'm getting on yours. So I need you to have your monies together. I need to have your ducks in a row. The only problem that we run into mostly is getting them housing because of the background checks.
Okay.
And I work with 2 landlords in town. If they got some availability, they work with me if I can vouch for them. But now I have to tell the girls, now you got to have your face clean. I can't vouch for you if your face ain't clean. But by the time they leave, I can almost tell who's going to make it now.
I was going to say, with that many interactions over the 20 plus years, I'm sure you do have an insight that most of us wouldn't have for that circumstance. Yeah.
The last 2 girls moved out together. I didn't think I thought they was going to kill each other in the house. It's like, how y'all going to make it work?
Yeah. Well, this has been really good, Sharon. So, is there anything that I haven't asked that I should have asked? I mean, we're going to shift gears. There's a couple of Gaston County related questions I want to ask you, just because that's what we do here. But is there anything I haven't asked that I should have asked? Now, before we finish, we'll make sure anybody listening that might have a family member or somebody, we'll let them, how can they get in touch with you or find more information out about the program? We'll make sure we cover that before. But is there anything I haven't asked that I should have asked?
I think I answered more than you asked, because I don't have a problem talking about my passion.
I would expect nothing less.
Yeah, I don't have a problem talking about my passion. This is my baby.
I know it is, yeah.
I've been doing.
Well, that's why we wanted to have you on.
Well, I mean, that's part of what I can do this with my eyes closed. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
I even did it through my grief. My husband's like, I don't see how you're doing. It's like, I don't have to think about what I'm doing over here.
Yeah.
All this other stuff, I had to think about that. But this I can do with one hand behind my back, eyes closed. I'm almost robotic with it now.
So we're gonna, with that note, we're gonna move and we're gonna call these speed round of questions. I'm gonna call it the off the streets round of questions. Isn't that lame? I just can't. I come up with a different name every episode, but sorry, I can't come up with anything better.
Why don't you just name it the Steve Loan questionnaire?
That's boring. So
you're not
you ready?
boring.
You ready for these important questions?
Is it speed round? Is like a
yeah.
okay, yeah.
You ready?
Go.
Favorite Tony's ice cream flavor?
Butter pecan.
Sundrop or Cheerwine?
Sundrop.
That's why you mentioned Sundrop earlier. Favorite local restaurant?
I'm fat. Why you gonna ask me that? Okay, let's say the restaurant of the day. Let's say the restaurant of today. If you asked me where I was gonna eat at today, it would probably be Outback.
Oh, Outback's good. Favorite park or favorite outdoor activity?
Martha Rivers.
Martha Rivers is great. What is something very few people know about you?
I done told everything. I don't have.
I was getting ready to say. I'm trying. Yeah.
I don't.
How about that Queen shirt you got on? Queen of Spades shirt you got on there.
My sister and I, if I had to tell one thing that people really don't know, my sister and I didn't speak the last 2 years of her life.
Oh.
Do you want the details?
No,
or
I'm probably not.
That's something people don't know.
Okay.
Even my family don't know that.
So this is like the world exclusive opening of that, huh?
Yeah.
We don't need to go there. That's up to you.
I mean, well, we didn't talk. I mean, she was controlling and dictative, and took me a long time to realize she was trying to sabotage everything about me. So at the end of her life, I had to quit talking to her. She even tried to turn my child against me.
That's too bad. Yeah, maybe we don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, but
this is upbeat.
Well, people didn't know that. Well, you asked me, what people don't know.
I know I did. So
that's like the only thing I don't talk about.
All right, next question.
Okay.
So, I appreciate you indulging us on those Gaston County questions, except maybe the last one. This is a podcast about Gaston County, and you shared, obviously, the great stuff you've been doing, the impact you've been making. But besides Off the Streets, Shaaron, why would you say Gaston County is such a great place?
Well, I think that Gaston County has a wholesome, wholehearted family vibe. If I had to answer that question from a place of being here all my life, it's safe compared to some of the places that I've traveled to. It's wholesome. It's close. We got our little spats, but it's nothing compared to a lot of the other cities,
Yeah.
I'm in love with my town. I don't know how to put that no other kind of way. It's like we just went through the elections. I ain't even know some of the people that was running, but I feel confident that the changes that we do go through, they won't be major changes because Gaston is pretty great anyway. And ain't no one person can change who we are.
You're right about that. Well, good. That's a great answer. I appreciate that. And it's kind of not exactly over 100-some episodes. I think that was a kind of a unique answer, so I appreciate that. Big question. Shaaron, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
Let's back it up to my 18 self, because my 20-year-old self was already full-blown. What I would tell my 18-year-old self is, it's okay that the child inside cries. And it's okay to take your adulthood to protect your childhood, because what happened to her at 11 wasn't your fault. And what spiraled your life and changed your life wasn't your fault. And when she cries out today, it's okay to tell her she's safe.
That's good. There may be somebody out there who needed to hear that. So I appreciate you sharing that. Well, Shaaron, just as I expected, this has been really good. And I'm familiar with, we've been friends with you for a while. I'm familiar with your organization, good work you're doing. So, again, that's why we wanted to have you on. And so others out there that might need the help, might not be familiar with the organization and the work that you're doing. We wanted to bring some awareness to that. So where can listeners go to learn more about the organization? If they want to get in touch with the organization, anything like that, anything you can share?
Yes. Off the Streets has a website. It's Off the Street, no S,
okay,
program.org.
we'll make sure that's in the show notes as well.
And people always want to ask, what are our needs?
Yep, that was my very next question. So I appreciate you.
Right now, we did a hygiene drive back in June. We didn't do the bike run, but the bikers still took up. We do a hygiene for the homeless bike ride, right? We didn't do the show this year because it's just a lot of work to put it together. But the bikers took up hygiene products. So we just did that. And then we did a paper product drive through Haynes. So we're pretty good on those things. So we just need to keep the lights on.
Okay.
Yeah, we need finances. Every once in a while I request linen. I think the towels get legs. And the sheets get legs. But every once in a while, but if we were going to take up anything right now, it would probably be washcloths.
Okay. What do you still participate in the Community Foundation run every year?
We do. You gonna give me some money?
Sure.
Okay, great.
That's in April. For those of maybe not surely people listening to this should be familiar with that, but yeah,
we start collecting monies in February,
yep.
So don't start sending anything to the foundation till February. And then the run is April the 13th. Put that on your calendars. April the 13th. 2024, and it's going to be held at the Claremont Baseball Park. I'm excited about that. Yeah. We've done that. This is our 20th year. Mm-hmm. Now I got a question for you.
Uh-oh.
Haven't heard all that you heard today. Did you learn anything about Off the Streets?
I learned that the number of individuals you have served is bigger than I could have imagined.
Okay.
I learned that marriage is everything. It's everything, right? When you have that marriage, when you talk about your husband and his involvement and everything that comes with that is so important to keep. And maybe sometimes ask better questions beforehand. So maybe he knew what he was getting into. But in so many of these episodes and organizations we've talked to, it takes the work of somebody like yourself, somebody with a passion, somebody with their own experience to serve so many people. And so many times what I've learned, and I learned again today from you, is I knew a little bit of the story, but I didn't know all the details. I didn't know the story behind, say, Barbara Wallace. I didn't know those specifics. So that was good to hear. So, but yeah, so many things, good things that happen, also come from maybe something that wasn't so great at some time or another. And another reason I like these type of episodes and sharing these stories is that I think it can give hope to somebody that might be listening. Give hope to somebody with a family member that's going through or dealing with something. So I just think why, someone like yourself who is willing to share the story and then take some action. Talk is cheap, but you're out doing the work, right? And you're in what you've done the last 21, 22 years is it's pretty spectacular, really.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. So see that, that's what I learned a lot, but some of it just confirmed what I either already knew or suspected, So I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah, it's been very good. Any last words?
Yes. So if you have a family member struggling with the disease of addiction, get out the way. They won't have a bottom as long as you're trying to catch them. Get out the way. Let them hit their bottom. Let them come to it all by themselves. And for the safety and the sanity of yourself, go to Al-Anon. Get yourself some help so you can stay healthy, but get out of their way. Because as long as you're trying to save them, they won't have a bottom. They won't reach a bottom. They won't see the end. They won't see that they're the problem. If they got a safety net, they will never fall. Wow,
that's some tough love advice, and somebody who has lived it. I appreciate that, because a lot of people, I bet a lot of family members just either don't think that or they just don't want to. They just want to keep.
Get yourself some help.
Absolutely.
Don't worry about them, because God can take care of them way better than you can anyway. Get yourself some help. If my mother was still alive and would tell you today, this is what she said to me. She said this to me when I was headed to prison. At least I'll know where you are.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. Yeah, that's not something I would have thought of. It was something else I learned.
That's what she told me.
Different perspective, right?
I was on the way to prison. She had done.
So at least for a period of time, she wasn't worried about where you were.
Well, every time the phone rung or every time she heard an ambulance outside, she'd hold her breath.
Wow.
Because I went to jail so many times. She didn't know when the phone was going to ring and I was dead. She took out insurance on me. And this was creepy because at 15 years clean, she made me sign it so she could get the money. She told me I had a husband to take care of me now. But she took out insurance on me because she never knew when she was going to have to bury me.
Wow.
It got that bad. It got that bad. I didn't know that. But she told me I went to prison in 91. I did 18 months. And she told me, going out of the courtroom, she said, at least I'll know where you are and I can sleep.
Wow. Well, Shaaron, I appreciate your time today, and I appreciate, not just what you do in my interactions and experience with you over the last 10 or 15 years. It's also the manner in which you do it. It's not, so it's obvious where your heart is, at least to me, and the work that you're doing, and it has made a big impact on our community. And so I'm grateful for that. And, we appreciate that greatly. So thanks for your time. And we're going to close this episode out.
You got a question? Okay, because you was crying too.
Well, Naomi is one of the most, how can I put this? How would I have worded that before? One of the most faithful people that I know.
Okay.
She is all in on that. So, and I consider that's a positive thing. She helps me keep myself in line. So
okay.
That's why before I open my mouth, I think, what would Naomi think before this stupid thing I'm about to say or do? Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah,
I want to thank you again for having me here. I appreciate this opportunity. I've always loved you. I looked at a picture of us the other day at the museum with us standing back to back.
Oh,
I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
But I looked at you, and it's like, you know what? I'm supposed to be doing something today. I couldn't think about what it was. And I saw that picture the other day. I didn't even think about it. I mean, like, really. Yeah. And then last night when I was thinking about it, I said, I got to do something tomorrow. And then it dinged on my phone. So I'm grateful for being here. I appreciate y'all and this opportunity. I love what I do. I can do it, like I said, I can do it with my eyes closed. I love Gaston County and all the collaboration and the partnerships that I've created. There's some wonderful people here.
There sure are, yep.
There's some wonderful people here. I'm not saying this because I don't want everybody to move here. We got enough folk here already. But I'm saying for the people that live here, we got some great people here,
That's exactly one of the big reasons we started doing this, to remind people, remind everyone here and others, frankly, because we do have some listeners that aren't in Gaston County, but to remind us that it's pretty good around here.
It is. And I'm going to double back just for this. You don't even have to put this on there, but my favorite restaurant, though I had to think about it, JP's.
Oh, yeah.
Have you been there?
Yes.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
And don't worry, I'm sure after we finish, you'll be leaving. You'll probably think of another answer to a question that I asked.
JP's.
But that's the way. Yeah, that's the way these
but
things go.
if you ask me today, I want Outback today. I really do. Y'all are wonderful. I appreciate you. I love everything that you do. I thank you for being a part of Off the Streets in the capacity in what y'all do, because, I can call on you and ask you, and you Johnny on the spot.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, again,
and I love that about you.
Our view has long been, especially with the work that we do, if we can't utilize the work that we do and what we're capable of to help serve the community, kind of what's the point? And that's part of the point of having a business, in our view. I mean, you can't do it to the point where you go out of business, because then you can't serve anybody, right? However, we've been very fortunate, and the community's been very good to GSM. We've got great people and team members here, and we want to model that. And you know what? We're people like you and others that we've met and I serve with on different organizations here. Yeah, they inspire us to want to do that too. So,
well, again, I wouldn't ask you to be a board member because I know you like triple busy.
That's correct. I am.
Yeah, I wouldn't ask you. I mean, I got sense enough to know who got the availability and who don't. But my board works, and until somebody say they don't want to be on it no more, I'm not going to replace anybody.
Yeah. But
there's no rotation off my board. Once you become a board member,
it's life. It's a lifetime contract with Shaaron.
Almost to emeritus.
Well, I mean, but to your point, yeah, I mean, we don't feel like we have to be a board member, serve on boards everywhere to still serve and help those organizations.
That part. That's all I need.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you're willing to do that, I ain't got to recruit you as a board member.
Absolutely. And we're still here, and you know my phone number.
I do. And anytime somebody comes out to my personal house, I make sure they know.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I'm sure.
Because, we had Scott for a long time.
Yeah.
And then he changed positions.
Yeah.
We having to vet somebody else,
He moved up, yep.
But we having to vet somebody else. And I kind of threatened him a little bit.
Well, that's okay.
It's like, you know what? If you don't do your job.
You got Steven's cell number, yeah.
I'm going to have Steven sitting at the table.
I have no doubt.
Got real big. He's
no
like
doubt.
sitting at the table. I was like, yeah. He'll be sitting at the table.
Well, this is what I was warning you beforehand, Naomi. Well, this will be like a 12-hour episode if we don't.
All right, let's wrap it up.
Shaaron and I won't be able to close this one out. So,
close it out.
As normal, I want to thank our listeners out there for taking time to listen to today's episode. Please continue to spread the word if you can about the podcast. We want as many people to learn about organizations like Off the Streets and all the good things that are happening in and around Gaston County. You can contact us at our email here, which is podcast@gastonsgreat.com. Please continue to share these episodes if you can with those, especially if you follow us on social media. You can find the podcast at gastonsgreat.com. And don't forget to give us a good 5-star rating. So Naomi always reminds me that helps us get noticed. Thanks again to Shaaron for being our guest today. Gaston's Great is produced and brought to you by Naomi Hunt and Amy Anderson from GSM Services. I'm your host, Stephen Long. Thanks again for hanging out with us, and please keep coming back to hear more reasons why Gaston's great.